Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with the National Weather Service. As always, it's a pleasure to see you again, and thank you for joining us right here on Alaska Weather. We encourage you to stay up to date with your local weather information and forecasts, and you can do that easily by watching the show, finding us online later at weather.gov/Alaska, or clicking on the TV button at the bottom of that page. You'll be able to find a link to the show on YouTube. Subscribe to that. Your phone will tell you when the next show is ready. Or if you want to just give us a call, 1-800-472-0391 for the Alaska Weather Information Line. Weather.gov/Alaska is always online for you. Type in mobile.weather.gov for a mobile view of that. And you can always email me if you can't find what you're looking for, or you'd like to lodge a complaint. I'm happy to listen to you and help you any way I can. David.Snider@noaa.gov is how you find me. We do have a flood warning tonight, and that is for the area around AKwx and along the AKwx River. We had a lot of snow melt in the western parts of the Brooks Range as we've gone through our winter time there, and with a lot of warm-up happening in very short order, a lot of that snow is melting very quickly. Now, earlier this morning, we did have an observer say that the waters of the AKwx River were about 1.5 feet below bankful there at AKwx, but we do expect that to come up to about 4 to 5 feet more than it is right now. And with that, we can see some flooding in the lower terrain and the lower areas around AKwx. There's probably going to be some extra debris in the water, so conditions are going to become unsafe in that area, and there will be some at least minor flooding. The road to the old airport is likely underwater at this time, or about to be. So as we know the area there, one challenge that we do have is that the tributaries above AKwx don't have a lot of information, don't understand where all those are and how they're going to interact with the extra drainage and the melt that's happening into the AKwx River. So there are still some question marks for us, and we're still learning, but we'd love to have your information. So make sure you check out weather.gov/APRFC, that's the Alaska Pacific River Forecast Center, or communicate problems that you're having in your village to your local officials there, and we'll be listening for that information so that we can help get that information out to more people and keep everybody in your community safe. Again, a flood warning in AKwx until Saturday at around 10:30 in the morning there because of snowmelt upstream there. This is not an ice jam related problem right now. Good news there. Let's take a look at the breakup map, and really the only issues that we have are the ones on the north slope at this point. We've got most areas that are mostly or maybe even some open across the Brooks Range summits, and then pointing north you can see that conditions are still showing mostly ice heading toward the north slope communities there out toward Prudhoe Bay and the Sag River there, but boy, with the recent warm weather, that'll be changing very soon. And with that comes a risk of fire danger. High fire danger there across the upper Yukon, across the upper Tanana valleys and the upper parts of the Copper River Valley. And then also below what we were talking about and west of the AKwx, out toward the Kobuk and Noatak Range region there. Most areas right now are not seeing that high level of fire danger. We're not seeing that in south central or southwest at this point, but a couple dry days push us right back into that mode. Here's a look at the satellite picture. As we go forth, you'll see several waves of low pressure. One of those there across the northern Gulf, not a whole lot of moisture with that as well, so we're just going to kind of scrub that out of the way. Low pressure sitting here across southwest is pushing moisture and showers and thunderstorms through southwest. It has not been terribly widespread just yet, but there certainly has been some rain moving through and around the area near Bethel. A lot of clouds to the north of that. That's interacting with high pressure sitting across eastern parts of Russia, and that is pushing colder air in underneath some of that high-level moisture. You probably see some fog as a result of that. And here's a much larger area of low pressure south of Kodiak and south of Sand Point. This region here is going to crank up the wind for the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island, not to mention the rain as we go into the next several days. This is going to move northward and expand its coverage and control of the north and western sections of the Gulf. And for right now, southeast is enjoying this where it is, because this means you are getting plenty of sunshine and some very warm air moving across the region. Plenty of sun for places like Juneau, temps in the 60s and 70s in the region. But with that comes the risk of showers and thunderstorms, some of those forming along on either side of the Alcan and down the higher terrain of the southeast mountains. So most areas there experiencing a fairly nice day. Most of this moisture will stay away from southeast, it looks like, for the next several days, but gradually creep your way as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. Here's a look at the weather map for today. You can see showers and thunderstorms right here along the Alcan. Low pressure sitting up around Kaktovik all the way down toward Eagle, and another boundary here across the higher terrain. This is allowing those convective clouds, a bubbling cumulus, to build up to greater heights and create a few of those showers and storms there. So just a little bit of lightning east of Fairbanks today, and generally from north way down to Eagle. Showers across some of the higher terrain for southeast. A band of moisture is moving in from southeast to northwest over places in the Chugach there, and generally east of Valdez. It looked like showers over the Kenai Peninsula, and then a little bit of a broader, more stout region of precipitation across southwest with low pressure sitting there. Here's high pressure out to the west, and that's going to gradually creep its way eastward, and along that boundary is a lot of stable air. Probably going to see some fog out in the western Bering and around the North Slope because of its influence. But for the big game changer for the next couple days, it's going to be this low here across the western Gulf. Tonight it's down to about 986 millibars, and you can see the pressure gradient here is really starting to tighten up. So we're going to see some higher seas with that and some choppier conditions there if you're flying around the Alaska Peninsula, getting out to the lodge perhaps for the first time. You're probably going to have some thumps and bumps trying to get around with this. This is going to move northward and eventually add a lot of clouds and probably precipitation to southwest, and it's also going to move into the Gulf, but it's going to take a little bit of time because you'll notice we've got high pressure ridge sitting here across southeast, so it will be guided northward, but it's got a lot of drier air to overcome here on the eastern side. So if you're in southeast looking west and going, oh, that looks like it's going to get into my day on Wednesday or Thursday, not so fast. It'll probably take a little more time here, and so enjoy your Wednesday while you can. That certainly looks like a good day in southeast. Low pressure here south of AKwx and southeast of Sandpoint will be around 990 millibars on Wednesday. The front moving closer to the Kenai Peninsula may have some pockets of heavier rainfall around Kodiak Island, maybe around the Kenai Fjords region down to Seward, and then showers across parts of Prince William Sound as usual. And as you would suspect, southwest, you're looking at some light rainfall there, maybe an isolated shower or thunderstorm as that's moving north. The real big trick will be how much dry air gets in here to pop open those clouds and get some sunshine in there so you can have some heat, so it can work with the moisture that's moving back in there. If all those things come together, a better chance for showers and storms in your area. We do expect to see a better chance there across the eastern interior, again from the Brooks Range probably all the way down toward Eagle and Northway, and then showers around the Chugach. And anything you see across southeast, that's primarily over higher terrain. Pockets of rain and snow still possible across the northwest. Most of that, again, will be higher terrain. Thursday, well, it looks like a trough of low pressure will extend all the way across the interior to southwest. Most of this is going to form in the heat of the day. And with the heat of the day and the instability in place, there will probably be more widespread showers and thunderstorms. Very summer-like pattern kind of shaping up when we see this. For the Gulf, though, high pressure sits up around 1,034 millibars. That's going to take what's left of that low and just kind of slosh it around the Gulf Coast community. Southeast, especially on the inside, might do okay. You'll have more clouds than sun, but it looks like most of the rainfall may be offshore. Southwest, you're looking at showers throughout the day. Norton Sound, Nome, eastward toward, let's say, up toward Kotzebue, and maybe as far north as Kivalina. You'll be looking at cloud cover there, showers across the eastern and central Beaufort Seacoast, and high pressure across the western Bering. Let's look at the weather patterns for the next couple days. Let's take a look at temperatures. We said it was going to be mild in southeast, mid to upper 40s there. I wasn't kidding. Haines and Skagway near 50, Ketchikan and Annette in the mid 40s there. Prince William Sound close to 40 degrees, including Valdez. 40 for Anchorage all the way down toward Kenai. 42 around Kodiak, southwest and Bristol Bay in the lower 40s. Look at Bethel, looking at temps in the lower 40s overnight as well. Fort Yukon, 51, that may be the big winner overnight, and lower 30s for the North Slope. Most areas there will be just below freezing. Not really cold at all. Very mild stuff there. In fact, by the day, you're looking at temps in the mid-30s to maybe even 40 degrees around Prudhoe Bay and Dead Horse out toward Kaktovik. Fairbanks, you're looking at temperatures in the upper 60s and low 70s all the way out to Tanana itself. Nome, 48. Southwest, we expect to see highs in the 50s, maybe even lower 60s around McGrath to Bethel. Low to mid 60s for most of southeast. Hyder, Ketchikan, Annette, Craig, Klawock, all looking at temps that are fairly mild. 48 in Kodiak, upper 50s to mid 60s for parts around south central. Another mild night on Thursday, 40s in southeast, south central. The interior could see temps in the 50s again from Fairbanks to Fort Yukon. Just below freezing again for the North Slope, 40s for most of southwest and the Alaska Peninsula, the Chain, Adak, and Atka. Above freezing, it looks like, 35 in St. Paul and around Macoriac. Highs there on Thursday, back in the lower 40s, 60s and 70s again for the interior, 50s and 60s for south central, and very mild weather continues in southeast with the capital city looking at a high, very pleasantly, 56 degrees for your Thursday. Nome checking in at 49.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
And on to your aviation weather now. IFR conditions are expected to be widespread across the North Slope, all the way from Kaktovik to Point Hope, Point Lay, and Kotzebue Sound, most of the Seward Peninsula, and then all the way across the wealth of the Bering Sea, including the Bering Strait. St. Lawrence Island, St. Paul, St. George, all IFR to start tomorrow morning in areas around the eastern chain through the Alaska Peninsula and all the way up toward AKwx in the southern end of Kodiak Island into the Barren Islands, Prince William Sound, and wrapping around the outer coast of southeast. On the inside passage, MVFR, watch for MVFR to be fairly widespread through the Copper River Valley and across the passes into the upper Yukon and the upper Tanana Valley, and also across Cook Inlet through the Alaska Range. As we get into the afternoon, we'll be watching for convection, shower, and thunderstorm activity. Will start to grow in number as we go through the rest of the week here as things are heating up across the interior and all the way into British Columbia and the western Yukon. For southeast, watch for MVFR to peel back a little bit to the north and to the east. You'll see a little bit more of improvement of VFR conditions for the central and southern parts of southeast. IFR conditions around Kodiak Island and then across the eastern part of the Bering, including still, though, St. Paul and St. George for your Wednesday and through the Bering Strait. Watch for IFR to pull back a little bit more to the north, but Wainwright, Utqiagvik, all the way through Atkasuk, Prudhoe Bay, Dead Horse, and up toward Kaktovik, still looking at IFR for tomorrow. Similar conditions again on Thursday morning. Not a whole lot of change really through Thursday, and the northern sections of the Seward Peninsula still looking at IFR, though you might be able to see a little bit of marginal conditions there up toward Kivalina, maybe closer into Kotzebue, but it'll be pushing it for Thursday morning. Watch for convection to continue in isolated fashion for the upper Yukon and Tanana valleys through Thursday morning. Southeast, the inside passage clears up a little bit there, but you still have a swath of IFR and widespread MVFR through most of the eastern Gulf, Prince William Sound. Some holes there around the Anchorage area in the southern Susitna and the Matanuska valleys, but watch for IFR across the central and western Bering to continue marginal conditions through the chain. IFR sets in there again in the afternoon for Adak, Atka on the south side, and Nikolsky and Unalaska and Dutch Harbor to Sand Point. Watch for marginal conditions to be fairly widespread through the Gulf. You'll see them pulling back into the northern sections of southeast, southern southeast, generally south of Sitka through Petersburg. You'll probably see VFR conditions linger there, and then widespread VFR, but watch for convection again for Thursday afternoon for the upper Yukon Valley and pushing into the upper Tanana Valley. Here's your pass conditions for tomorrow now. Anaktuvik and Adigan Pass, we expect to see marginal weather really through Wednesday and maybe into Thursday too. As we get into Lake Clark and Merrill Pass, we expect to see some gradual improvements there as we go into your afternoon hours. So VFR probably developing there. Rainy Pass looks pretty good most of the day. We'll call VFR for Wednesday. The same goes for Windy Pass. And Isabel Pass will probably start at marginal levels but then lean over toward VFR as the day goes on. Mentasta Pass, we expect to see marginal conditions there improving as the day goes on for Mentasta. Tenita Pass also expecting to see some improvements during the day. Portage Pass probably holds at marginal levels through most of your afternoon. Chilkoot and White Pass also we're going to list as marginal for both Wednesday in both passes. Freezing levels, wow, it looks like a bowl of spaghetti dumped out on the map, doesn't it? Areas anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 feet for most of the Bering Sea. Look at the Bering Strait. We have overrunning taking place. Overrunning is when warmer air comes on top of colder air. Usually we would say the atmosphere would be the other way around. It gets colder as you go up. In this case, the overrunning means that there could be some precipitation that would fall in liquid form and then freeze on contact. So as we're watching the weather, we want to keep that in mind here, and that's especially notable if you're flying through a wet cloud that is suddenly going below freezing. So keep that in mind if you're flying around. But right now we have cold air here across the Bering, and then up north you can see levels between about 2,000 and 4,000 feet in the surface freezing line south of St. Lawrence Island to just about St. Matthew, and then riding along the north slope. Levels aloft anywhere from 4 to about 6, even 8,000 feet across a large part of the mainland and into the outer coast of southeast. Icing potential, generally, we've got a lot of warm air here, as you saw, and to get into that really good icing, cold and wet weather, or at least frozen weather, you're talking about 7 to about 10,000 feet and higher. So right now, the main moisture is well to the south of kind of that overrunning area we're just looking at. So that is good news. The jet stream has low pressure on either side of the Gulf here, one of those over the west coast of the lower 48, the other across the North Pacific, 135 to 145 knots on either side of that low. A powerful system and a powerful ridge building in. That strong southerly flow will be affecting our weather for days to come. And a dip in the jet stream here across the Bering. The weather's going to try and change a little bit in the next couple days. Southerly winds blasting in across the Gulf Coast, 50 to 60 knots there. Southerlies over southeast, the west coast over the interior, and then you see a low pressure interruption here across the chain and the Alaska Peninsula. Low pressure continues to sit near Kodiak Island. Strong southerly winds for most places as we go through Wednesday, and turbulence focused below 4,000 and 6,000 feet.
Just as the sun is part of weather on Earth, it also affects weather in space. The sun creates solar wind by steadily releasing a flow of plasma particles in all directions around it. Sometimes the sun gives off a flash of light and X-rays. This is known as a solar flare. When massive bursts of particles explode into space, we call it a coronal mass ejection, or CME. When a CME is directed toward Earth, it hits the magnetosphere, the magnetic field around our planet that protects us. If the storm is large, we may even get to enjoy a light display in the sky called the auroras. In space, satellites may be damaged, and astronauts should take cover. On Earth, people do not feel any physical effects. We may lose electricity in some areas, polar flights may be rerouted, and satellite services may be disrupted. While these situations aren't ideal, they are rare and fixable. This is why we will continue to study the sun and its interactions with Earth and the solar system.
Longing for more space, open skies, and exotic travel? Then look up, about 30 to 600 miles straight up, at the ionosphere, Earth's interface to space. Nestled far above the clouds but below outer space, this little understood destination invites you to explore its many features. Experience both the weather from Earth and the weather from space. Marvel at the ballet of radio waves and navigation signals, like GPS, leaping through this particle paradise. Sit back, relax, and take in the aurora, some satellites, and the International Space Station as they sail by. And you'll want your camera handy for one of the region's signature features, bright and colorful air glow. This daily show is made possible by the ionosphere's own swirling charged particles, because that's what the ionosphere is. It's all charged particles. During the day, enjoy the sea of particles, freshly energized by the sun. As the sun sets, this particle party relaxes and the air glow thins. Our quieter nightlife lets you gaze into clearer skies. The ionosphere is in constant motion, an amazing effect of space weather. Don't miss when solar storms rain down. The storm separates the particles even more, making this colorful region delightfully more dense in some places and stunningly sparse in others. And don't forget about storms from Earth below. Your weather from back home also stirs up this one-of-a-kind destination. Experience the unique beauty of every season, as changes in Earth's atmosphere, daily and annually, can create pressure waves, changing the ionosphere's shape and density. Venture to the equator, where our particles are packed in lush and thick. Cruise along a magnetic field line and see how the ionosphere's charged material also interacts with Earth's own magnetic field. Don't miss the superhighway of particles zipping out to space and back down to the planet. This unpredictable parade of charged particles can help you unplug and unwind. This is because the crowd of particles can garble the radio and satellite communications from home. The ionosphere welcomes you to discover more about this little-known region. After all, once you've explored this interface to space, who knows how much farther you'll be able to go.
When a star, bigger and more massive than the Sun, runs out of fuel at the end of its life, its core collapses while the outer layers are blown off in a supernova explosion. What's left behind depends on the star's original mass. A star roughly 10 to 20 times our Sun leaves behind a neutron star. A more massive star becomes a black hole. Unlike black holes, neutron stars are directly observable, usually as pulsars, the lighthouses of the cosmos. Discovered 50 years ago, they are the densest observable objects in the universe. Neutron stars compress up to twice the Sun's mass into a city-sized sphere. Matter is packed so tightly that a teaspoon of neutron star interior would weigh more than 1 billion tons on Earth. Still, the nature of the ultra-dense matter in the cores of neutron stars is unknown. Because neutron stars pack so much mass into such a tiny volume, they produce gravity strong enough to bend the light they emit, distorting their appearance in a way that enables the mass and size of the star to be measured. Scientists cannot reproduce the extreme conditions in and around neutron stars on Earth. They must look into the galaxy to answer decades-old questions about extreme matter and gravity. NASA's Neutron Star Interior Composition Explorer mission, or NISA, will make X-ray observations of neutron stars from its perch on the International Space Station. It will give astronomers more insight into these mysterious objects, helping determine what is under their surface. A multi-purpose mission, NISA includes a technology demonstration called Sextant. It will analyze NISA's observations to validate the use of rapidly rotating neutron stars as navigation beacons for travel in deep space throughout the solar system and beyond.
And now, marine weather around Alaska. And back with your sea ice update now. You'll notice more marginal ice across the eastern Beaufort seacoast there, north and west of Kaktovik and approaching Prudhoe Bay. We're also seeing a lot of meltwater here across some of the North Slope communities. So as those rivers are flushing out that fresh water, it's making it a lot harder for a lot of these areas to stay frozen right along the coast. So watch for more changes there. Around the Chukchi coast, a broad area of open water now, and the marginal ice zone is pushing up to the western side of Utqiagvik. You're still looking at some shore-fast ice down around Wainwright and in the upper end of the Kotzebue Sound region, and some patchy marginal ice down through the Bering Strait. Be careful on the ice. Conditions continue to change every single day. Here's a look at southeast. Light winds, small seas, nice weather. Wow. Wish I could join you there. Petersburg looks like you'll see northwesterlies, about 2-foot seas there, 10 knots, 15-knot winds down around Clarence Strait. Southerlies coming up the Lynn Canal, 15 knots, 3-foot seas. A great day to be in the inside passage for sure. North and westerlies coming down the outer coast, 15 to 25. Be careful out there. 6 to 8-foot seas. They're not too bad, but take it easy. Southerlies west of Yakutat going into Prince William Sound, 10 to 15 knots, 6-foot seas expected. Now the winds and seas are going to come up as we get into Thursday. You'll notice a slight increase there across the north and western Gulf down toward Icy Cape. And then after you get south of Cross Sound to the Dixon entrance, the northwesterlies really come up sharply, 20 to 25, and seas follow, 9 to 10 feet. Look for southerlies in the Lynn Canal, 20 knots, 4-foot seas. Northwesterlies across the inside passage, 15 knots. Still looking at small seas in the area, about 2 to 3 feet there for Thursday. For South Central, small seas, light winds on Prince William Sound, 10 knots, 2-foot seas there, 6 to 7-foot seas as you get down toward Kenai Fjords and outside of Montague Island, 20 to 30-knot winds, and then a stronger easterly flow coming across the Barrens, 35 to 40. 10 to 13-foot seas there. East and northeasterlies coming down Cook Inlet, looking at about 3-foot seas there for Wednesday. Everything starts to settle down across Cook Inlet there, especially around the Barrens. 30 knots, a south and southeasterly flow. 8 to 16-foot seas, though, still expected there, especially on the outside as you get into regions just outside of Montague Island and Hitcher Brook entrance. Anywhere from 12 to 14-foot seas, 15 to 30-knot winds, though, is what you should be expecting across the north and western Gulf. Easterlies inside of Prince William Sound, they come up just a little bit, 15 knots, 3-foot seas there on Thursday. For Bristol Bay, easterlies at 25 knots, 5-foot seas expected, 7-foot seas down the coast on a 30-knot wind. Your stronger winds around that area of low pressure we're tracking, 35 to 40 knots there east of the island, and 15 to 18-foot seas should be expected. Inside Shelikof Strait looks kind of rough, 40 knots, 14-foot seas there. That improves on Thursday, but the winds go the other way. Southerlies with a 7-foot sea, south and westerlies across the north and western Gulf, 25 to 30 knots, and looking at lighter winds across the Bering Sea coast, 15 to 20, and 4 to, 3-foot seas actually as you get closer to land there. That improves as we get toward your Thursday. For the Aleutians, northerlies anywhere from 10 to about 20 knots, and anywhere from 4 to 7-foot seas across the chain, the highest of which will be out between Adak and Kiska. And northerlies make it through the passes there. A few of those could be a little blustery, like what you see between Unalaska and Nikolsky. Northwesterlies 20 with a 10-foot sea on Wednesday. That improves to a northeasterly flow, 15 knots. and 7-foot seas, up to 20 knots there south of the chain for the central regions, and about 10 to 20 out in the west, looking at about 4 to 6-foot seas there on your Thursday. For the west coast, northerlies over Norton Sound, 2-foot seas there. Light winds for the most part. You'll see 3 to 4-foot seas there all the way out towards St. Matthew. A little bit of a stronger flow here from St. Lawrence Island down toward McCormick, and northeasterlies a little stronger still from the Kuskokwim Delta out towards St. Paul and St. George. 20 to 25 knots, 4 to 5-foot seas there. That improves a little bit, but then we shift the focus for higher winds north of McCormick out towards St. Matthew, 20 to 25, and northerlies off of St. Lawrence Island, 20 knots with a 5-foot sea, 3-foot seas inside of Norton Sound. For the north slope, light winds around Prudhoe Bay over the ice, 5 knots there. A southeasterly flow, 20 around Kaktovik, 3-foot seas there. And winds anywhere from 5 to 15 knots across the Chukchi coast. You're looking at about 2 to 3-foot seas on Wednesday. And then a steadier northerly wind coming down the coast, 10 to 15 in most cases, 20 knots in the Bering Strait. And light winds over the ice. You'll probably be looking at fog as well with weather like that on Thursday, but temperatures are warming up. Let's take a look at the forecast there. Once again for tonight, a flood warning around Alakakit on the Koyukuk River thanks to snowmelt. Things are warming up and the snow is melting in fast order. Low pressure south of the Alaska Peninsula will spread in wind as we saw and rain as we've talked about. That will continue as we head into your Wednesday and Thursday. Pockets of showers, maybe a few thunderstorms out across the west. A better chance of that happening across the Alcan border and over the higher train for southeast as we get into your Wednesday. As we get into Thursday, it looks like a fairly mild day across the interior. Most regions there looking at 60s and 70s. Southeast, you won't be too far behind. A generally dry day on the inside, but rainfall and clouds on the outside. And temperatures will stay fairly mild for south central and southwest going into the weekend. Thanks for watching.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.